question. Well, I actually grew up in Dublin, but before that, my dad worked for the UN, so I spent a bit of time in the Middle East when I was a kid. So you speak of influences. I think like you guys and probably a lot of your listeners, I was always a massive sports fan in general, but particularly a football fan. And it got to the point where I was leaving school. I played a lot of sports in school, and I didn't really know what to do. And like a lot of people, I got advice from some trustworthy individuals, family, friends, etc. But I ended up doing an accounting degree, and so I did that. Didn't necessarily have that much interest in it, but felt it was a practical thing to do. And after that, I ended up going to, so that was in Dublin. And then I went to Liverpool and did a master's in international banking and finance, and came back to Dublin and actually started working in a big bank in Ireland, worked in their treasury accounting area, but very quickly progressed up to be a trader. So I worked as a foreign exchange trader for nearly 3 years. And during that whole process, I'd always had my eye on doing a course in relation to getting into the football industry. And in particular, at that time, this would have been sort of late 2000s. So the main one that was around at the time was the MBA in football industries at the University of Liverpool. And I'd always toyed with the idea of doing that. Before I did, I saw a job advert for the club secretary's job at Sunderland, and this was in 2006. And the Drummondville Consortium, an Irish group, had just taken over. Niall Quinn had gone in as chairman. So I decided to apply for this job. And I didn't have any experience. I was enthusiastic. And anyway, I got invited over to meet the recruitment agent. So I had 1 day's holiday left at that point, and I took that day. I flew over to Newcastle and met him at a hotel in Newcastle. So they were keeping you away from Sunderland at that point, and had a conversation with him. Went pretty well. And a few days later, I was invited back for another interview, but I didn't have any days. So I ended up having to pull a sickie, and I went back and did that second interview, and that was with quite a few board members. And I didn't get the job, but I was very, very close and got good feedback and got a lot of confidence from that. And I quit my job as a trader at that point, went and did the MBA in Liverpool. And after that, ended up doing and again, I ended up falling into doing a PhD, really, because I always thought I'd get into a football-based job. I had a couple of interviews at the time. I wasn't 100% sure about the roles. I wasn't happy. So as a contingency, I'd applied to do a PhD in Henley Business School and University of Reading. And I went down, and they actually have 3 dealing rooms. So the fact that I used to trade, they ended up offering me a lecturing job, teaching the practical element of trading, and I did my PhD at the same time, and I had quite a lot of free time. So I started working with some industry-based projects. So with the likes of CAA, did a project for UEFA, and just tried to get some relevant experience and build up my network at that point, because I'm sure you've heard this so many times, but the industry is so small and it's a difficult one to break into. So the more people that you know, the better. So I had started for that whole process. I went to every industry related event, got to know people. And then when I eventually finished up there, I went in as head of football clients at PwC. And yeah, that was my sort of background into the industry.